Welcome, and thank you for standing by. At this time, all participants are in listen-only mode until the question and answer session of today's conference. If you'd like to ask a question over the phone, please dial *1. I would like to inform all parties that today's conference is being recorded. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. I would now like to turn the conference over to your host, Elizabeth Hoffman. Thank you. You may begin.
Thank you, Danielle. Welcome, everyone, to the CDFI program and NACA programs webinar today. This is our pre-application webinar for thinking about getting started on our FY 2022 round. We anticipate that the FY 22 round will open sometime within the first quarter here of calendar year 2022. And today we are going to be focusing on some of the main systems that you will need to have in order and some steps that you can take now to put your organization in a good place to be ready when the funding round does open. And this will be particularly relevant for our new emerging CDFIs who might be applying for technical assistance. So we'd like to especially welcome all the new folks that this might be your first time with us. I will be presenting on the call today, as well as my colleague Matthew Pickering, and I will turn it over to him now. Matthew.
Great. Thank you, Elizabeth. So we're going to start off the webinar today. As Elizabeth mentioned, this webinar really covers the steps that you can take to easily facilitate applying for a CDFI or NACA program award before the round opens. So with that in mind, the topics that we're not going to be covering today include reasons why your organization might have been unsuccessful in any prior award round, as well as any matching funds questions that are specific to your organization. And we're not also going to be talking about the application components, including submission and review of applications. And finally, we're not going to be going over instructions on how to enter data into Amos, which is the CDFI Fund's Awards Management Information System. And I also want to mention, too, that we're aware that the fiscal year 2021 award announcements for FA were recently made, and TA was made a few months back. With that in mind, today's presentation and the questions are not going to be dealing with anything related to the FY21 funding round, including assistance agreements. If you do have any questions about the FY21 funding round, including your assistance agreement or any other items on this slide, we encourage you to submit a service request in your Amos account, and that will enable us to appropriately route and answer your question as quickly as possible. So for those of you who are new to the CDFI Fund, the CDFI program and Native American CDFI Assistance, or NACA program, are designed to promote economic revitalization and community development through investment and assistance to CDFIs. We also build the capacity of for-profit and nonprofit community-based lending organizations who serve disadvantaged communities across the country that lack adequate access to affordable financial products and services. This year, as in years past, we have the CDFI and NACA program the following types of awards. Under both programs, we have technical assistance, or TA, and we also have the financial assistance, or FA, which includes base financial assistance, or base FA, which is the award that all folks applying for financial assistance will apply for. And in addition to that, those who apply for base FA can also choose to apply for certain supplemental applications as applicable. And those include persistent poverty counties, or PPCFA, disability funds, or DFFA, and Healthy Food Financing Initiative, HFFI-FA. And as Elizabeth said earlier, this presentation today is about framing the application process. And with that in mind, we're going to be talking about steps that you can take before you apply and before the round opens. That includes SAM.gov, Grants.gov, where you'll be ultimately submitting your SF-424, as well as your Amos account, including your organization and program profile. We encourage all applicants to go to our website, under the Step 2 application process page of either the CDFI program or Native Initiatives website. Once the round opens, you'll have current versions of all of the necessary guidance and reference materials posted there, and those documents will be updated on an as-required basis throughout the funding round. So here we have a brief outline of the timeline for applicants who are applying for CDFI, NACA, TA, or FA awards. And everything is related to the date that the NOFA is published in the Federal Register. You'll notice here that that as of the date that the NOFA is published in the Federal Register, all groups applying for financial assistance are required to be certified CDFIs. So note that does not apply to technical assistance applicants. And this is not a new requirement, but something that we've been doing for the past few funding rounds. Then you'll see that 30 days after the NOFA is published, there are a number of individual deadlines that you need to pay attention to. First, your SF-424 application for federal assistance is due, and you must create your Amos account, which is particularly relevant for new users and new applicants. We require that you also enter your EIN and DUNS number into your Amos account, and for those applicants who are eligible for CECA, which is Small and Emerging CDFIs, those who are eligible for that program applying for FA, but who wish to apply for more than $700,000, which is traditionally the limit to the CECA program, you can do so by submitting a service request in Amos by 30 days after the NOFA publication. And finally, 60 days after the NOFA publication, all CDFI program and NACA program applications for FA and TA are due in Amos. So a few quick tips for getting started. We recommend that if you don't already have one, you would obtain your employer identification number and your Dun & Bradstreet number, or DUNS number. We also recommend that you register in and/or update your accounts in System for Award Management, which is SAM.gov, as well as Grants.gov and Amos. I'm going to talk a little bit about EIN and DUNS numbers. An applicant should ensure that the EIN and DUNS number are accurate and uniform and consistent across SAM.gov and your Amos account. This is really important, so note that the CDFI fund will reject an application if it is submitted with the EIN or DUNS number of a parent or affiliate organization. In addition, your EIN and DUNS number that you list in your Amos account must match that that's in your SAM.gov account. We'll reserve the right to reject an applicant if the EIN and DUNS number in your Amos account doesn't match the EIN and DUNS number in your SAM.gov account. So in SAM.gov, which again is the System for Awards Management, if you're new, we recommend that you register as soon as possible. And if you're an existing user, we recommend that you make sure your account is active and up to date. We will not consider any applications from an organization that fails to register or activate your SAM.gov account, which might lead to you being unable to submit your SF-424 through Grants.gov by the deadline. And finally, we note that the CDFI fund does not maintain SAM.gov, so applicants should contact the Federal Service Desk for technical assistance.
Thanks, Matthew. This is Elizabeth. I will now take us through some points about Grants.gov and our Amos system. In Grants.gov, this is where you will submit the SF-424. That's the standard form 424 used for all federal grant application programs. All applicants must submit their SF-424 through the deadline, which will be 30 days after the NOFA publication. Please note that if it is not submitted successfully, we will not be able to review your materials submitted in Amos, and the application will be deemed ineligible. If you are a new Grants.gov user, you should register as soon as possible. You could do that this afternoon, in fact. It can take a couple, we know there's some delays sometimes that occur with Grants.gov, and we wouldn't want anyone to be unable to apply because they couldn't get registered. So if you're a brand new user, please sign into Grants.gov today. If you're a current user, please make sure your account is active and up to date. That will be required as well. When you're submitting the SF-424 in Grants.gov, one of the fields it will ask you for is the amount of financial assistance or technical assistance that you're requesting. Please note this field is also asked for in your Amos application. If there's a difference between what you put in your SF-424 and what you put in Amos, the CDFI fund will go with the value that you put in Amos. So you can go ahead once the NOFA is published and submit the SF-424 early with your best guess of the amount that you are going to ask for. And if that changes, you would just need to make sure it changes in Amos. Much like SAM.gov, please note that the CDFI fund does not maintain Grants.gov. So if you need assistance submitting your SF-424 or getting registered, you need to contact them directly. Another important point to note is that the SF-424 must be submitted under the correct program funding opportunity number. CDFI and NACA, our Native Assistance Programs, have different funding opportunity numbers. So CDFI programs need to not select NACA. NACA programs need to not select CDFI. If you submit your SF-424 under the correct program funding opportunity number, you will be deemed ineligible. I know that has happened a few times in the past, and that's always a very sad day for us at the CDFI when we have to deem someone ineligible because of that. The final system we'll be talking about today is Amos. Each applicant must register as an organization in Amos. That is where you'll submit all your required materials. If you're a new group today, new to us and thinking about applying for our technical assistance program, you can similarly log on to Amos this afternoon and begin getting your account set up. That will be a good tool to put you in position to be ready when the NOFA is published. There is a deadline that new applicants must create an Amos account by 30 days after the NOFA publication. All applicants must enter their EIN and their DUNS numbers in their Amos accounts by 30 days after the NOFA application. And you'll be designating at least one authorized representative and point of contact in your Amos account. These are individuals that would have the legal authority to sign documents on behalf of your organization, the authorized representatives, so a CEO, a CFO, senior managers. Note that they may not be consultants. They must be individuals that are a member of your organization. Another important reason to register and make sure your Amos update account is up to date is so that you can receive all our important communications that will let you know things such as when the NOFA is published and any updates. Now I think we'll have a little review. Matthew, are you up for taking a quiz?
Sure am.
All right, I'll make it easy on you. True or false? The CDFI fund maintains and runs the SAM.gov and Grants.gov systems.
That is definitely false.
That is true. Please contact those systems directly if you have any issues registering or updating your accounts. True or false? All of the FY22 application components, including the SF-424, will be submitted via Amos.
That is also false.
Yes, it is. The SF-424 is the one piece that needs to be submitted through Grants.gov. So at the conclusion of this call, you can go register or make sure your account is up to date. True or false? Once the NOFA is published, applicants are encouraged to submit their SF-424 forms as early as possible.
Definitely true.
Yes, it is. There can be issues sometimes, and it's best to get it done. You can submit your SF-424 form on the first day that the NOFA is released if you want. True or false? CEQA-eligible applicants who want to apply for more than the $700,000 CEQA maximum must request to do so in Amos no later than 30 days after the publication of the NOFA.
That is true.
That is also true. As Matthew spoke about, you will do that via a service request in order to get that other application type launched. Our final question, true or false? The CDFI fund will reject applications that are submitted with the EIN or DUNS number of a parent or affiliate organization.
That is unfortunate, but true.
Yes, it is. And that is always a sad, sad thing for us at the CDFI to have folks asking us, well, I don't see my, SR 424, and for us to realize it's because it got associated with a parent or affiliate. So please triple check that your DUNS and EIN numbers are correct and that they're for your organization, not a parent or an affiliate, in all of the systems that you'll be using to apply. That concludes our presentation today. We are now going to open up the line for any questions and answers you may have.
Thank you. As we begin the question and answer session, if you would like to ask a question over the phone, please dial *1 and record your name when prompted. Your name is just required so we can introduce your question. If you need to withdraw your question for any reason, you can dial *2. Again, if you'd like to ask a question over the phone, please dial *1. It may take a moment for any questions to come through. All right, our first question today comes from Mr. Porter. Mr. Porter, your line is now open.
Yes, I was just checking to see if you have estimated dates on when the NOFAs will be published.
Thank you for your question. Our best estimate is that it will be in the first calendar quarter here of 2022, so January, February, March.
Okay. Thank you.
Our next question comes from Laura Bolstead. Your line is now open.
Yes, I was wondering if we're already registered in Amos, do we need to re-enter our DUNS number each time we apply?
Thank you for your question. No, you do not need to re-enter your DUNS number in your Amos account. Once it's in there, so just make sure it's accurate. If you were to discover there was any issue, you could submit a service request to get that updated. But no, once you are a current user with your DUNS number and EIN number entered in Amos, those are there to stay.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Edward Gaston. Your line is now open.
Yes, as an emerging CDFI, what is the maximum TA request that will be in this round?
We won't know that for sure until the NOFA is published, but in the past several rounds, the maximum TA request for our CDFIs has been $125,000, and the maximum request for our native CDFIs has been $150,000 for the TA program.
Our next question comes from Kim Kellogg. Your line is now open.
Hi, yes, thank you. Again, emerging CDFI question. This is very new to us. We're just beginning to explore. I had not seen anything on the CECA before. Could you please elaborate a bit more on what that is? Thank you.
Sure, thank you. CECA is an acronym that stands for Small and Emerging CDFI Assistance. And if you are an emerging CDFI, you will be applying for the TA program. So that is sort of all you need to know. Our small groups that are CECA in the FA, the Financial Assistance Program, there's sort of a separate track so that newer, smaller groups have a little bit of an easier time in the financial assistance component. But welcome to the CDFI space if you are new, and if you are emerging and not yet certified, you'll be applying for the TA program where there's no particular distinction.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Elizabeth, this is Andrew Schlack. If I could just compliment your response for anyone who might be new to the CDFI financial assistance and technical assistance programs, what we historically do and what we've done this year is we have left the resources that are available from the last funding round. Elizabeth might even be able to navigate to our website where we have left and retained all of our fiscal year 2021 application materials. And as Elizabeth and Matthew shared, we're working to publish this year's Notice of Funds Available NOFAs in the first quarter of this year. But for folks that might be, just getting started, thinking about what a technical assistance application will look like, all of the guidance materials, last year's NOFA, the slide decks that talk about the program, the requirements for small and emerging CDFIs will be available, and I'll let Elizabeth navigate us there now. Elizabeth?
Great. Thanks for that reminder, Andrew. So our main website is CDFIfund.gov. It brings you to this landing page. You'll want to go to Programs and Training. Within the programs, if you are one of our regular CDFIs, you'll come to the CDFI program for technical assistance and financial assistance. If you're one of our native CDFIs, you'll come down to the Native Initiative section. These programs, these sections have the same materials since the programs are run concurrently. And once you're on the page for the CDFI or native program, you'll see after the overview, it's laid out here as sort of the 5-step process. The second step on how to apply has the timeline, the application materials, and all of these things. So here is our advertisement for today, the webinar that we are on. And these rounds are, here are our reference materials for FY 2021. So there'll be a variety of webinar recordings. The application timeline and deadlines will be published on this page. We will be having, for FY 22, once the round opens, we will be having additional webinars to talk specifically about SA and TA, as well as to provide some question and answer periods during the application open period. And then all of the published materials are here either under the heading for financial assistance for our FA applicants or under the heading of technical assistance for our TA applicants. So as Andrew said, these are last year's materials, but they provide an idea of what, type of materials we typically would have.
Our next question comes from Kevin Daniels. Kevin, your line is now open.
Yes, how you doing? Thank you for the presentation and for your time. My question is around the just looking for clarification with the definition of a parent company. So I currently have a nonprofit that's registered as a community development corporation, and we're looking to build out a CDFI fund. And am I able to build the fund underneath the CDFI, or do I need to build and start a whole separate CDFI entity and utilize that instead of the CDC?
That is a great question. I am so glad you asked it. Per the NOFA, as in past years, only the entity that is going to become the CDFI may apply for the Technical Assistance Award. So if you are planning to spin off a new entity, that would be something that you could get started on now. If you apply with your current organization and that's not the group that's going to eventually become the CDFI, then you would not be eligible for TA. But if you go ahead and spin off a new group and get it its EIN and DUNS and all those things, you can apply under that organization, and that organization would be eligible for the TA program.
And this is Andrew again, just to complement what Elizabeth shared. We have a business unit inside the CDFI fund that's entirely dedicated to certification, CDFI certification. It is our called, certification monitoring and evaluation now. That business unit hosts monthly webinars around the topic of certification. So there's a group like yours, Kevin, that might be weighing the pros and cons of whether or not you need to start a new entity that will become the certified CDFI. Those questions are best handled through through that forum. And again, Elizabeth navigating us to the CDFI certification webpage, where this is the business unit that at the end of the day, let's say you apply for a technical assistance grant. One of the PG&M performance goals and measures of that technical assistance grant is to become a certified CDFI. If you have questions, like your question specifically, about what it means to be a certified CDFI, Elizabeth is highlighting the very next call that certification business unit will convene. It looks like is on January 20th, and that would be a great forum for you to bring this topic up. It will likely involve a follow-up conversation with certification. Just highlighting the risk that Elizabeth elevated. Again, if your organization applies and receives a technical assistance grant to become a certified CDFI, and it's later determined that the applicant recipient at that point is not certifiable, that's a compliance risk. We're not able to transfer these agreements. So just underscores the importance of figuring out that structure, the correct structure before you apply. If I heard you correctly, you have currently a CDC. CDCs go through their own certification process, which is different than a CDFI certification process. So it sounds like, based on the limited information that we have, encourage you to talk to people at certification, but that the CDFI certification is distinct from a CDE certification, which is specific to new markets. But a lot more information on this topic to be covered, as Elizabeth highlighted during the monthly certification webinars. Great question.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Teresa Craig. Your line is now open.
Yes, good afternoon. We submitted our recertification documents in November, and we have not received an answer yet, and we probably won't expect one anytime soon. But will we be able to apply for financial assistance or TA even though our recertification is in progress right now?
That's a great question. Thank you. So to apply for the financial assistance program, your organization must be certified by the date that the NOFA is released. But if you are an uncertified organization, you may apply for the technical assistance program.
Okay. Okay. So even though we've been certified in the past and we're going through the recertification right now, we can't apply for an FA, but we can apply for a TA.
That is my understanding, that the certification piece of the NOFA refers to your current certification status. So if you are not currently certified on the date that the NOFA is published, then no, you would not be eligible that round to apply for FA.
Okay. All right. Would you know about how long it's taking right now to get recertified?
I'm sorry, I don't have the answer to that question. That would be something you could check in with on our certification team by submitting a service request through Amos.
Okay, I can do that.
As a reminder, if you'd like to ask a question over the phone, please dial *1. Our next question comes from Sue Murray. Your line is now open.
Thank you. This information is terrific. I have one question. Would you please explain the significance of submitting the 424 in Grants.gov 30 days or as soon as possible when the NOFA comes out versus the full application at 60 days?
Sure. Thank you for your question. It's just a matter of having different deadlines. So the SF-424 through Grants.gov is the standard form 424 used by all federal programs for agencies applying for federal assistance. So that's done by everybody, and that needs to be separate. So we ask for that 30 days after the NOFA is published, and then we give you a bit longer. We give you those 60 days, as you noted, to complete the application, which would include the narrative pieces and financial data. The SF-424 form is fairly short with your organization's name and key information, but the meat of the application will be in Amos, so therefore we give you 60 days for that.
Okay, that's a relief. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next question comes from Marcus Rankin. Your line is now open.
Thank you. Regarding the FA awards, is the amount that a CDFI is eligible to request, is that limited to a particular program or programs, or can some of the funds be used for operational expenses, or is there a combination of the two, or exactly what is the percentages for that?
Sure, that's a great question. Thank you. So I believe in past NOFAs, it has been that 15% of the application can be used for direct, or of the award amount can be used for direct administrative expenses. Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure per the uniform guidance, that indirect expenses are not an allowed use. But the main reason folks request the financial assistance is for one of 5 eligible uses, being financial products, financial services, if you're a regulated institution, development services, so working credit counseling, homebuyer counseling, things of that nature that would support the financial products, and then depending on your institution type, either loan loss reserves or capital reserves. So those are the main eligible uses of the FA program. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
And this is Andrew, and if I could just also, all this is subject to change with the publication of the NOFA. As Elizabeth and Matthew shared, we're doing this pre-application webinar really to focus on the systems that are required to support your application. We're not really going to get into any details about the uses of awards. You got a good question in there, but just a friendly reminder to folks that we're really focused on Amos, SAM, and Grants.gov at this point, and we will, as Elizabeth shared on our website, once the NOFA is published, we're going to convene 4 more webinars, 2 that are specific to TA and for FA, and also 1 specific to native CDFIs that are applying. So any specific questions about, uses of awards or what the supplemental programs, et cetera, we ask that you hold those questions until after the NOFA is published, because at this point we're just basing our responses off of information that is available on our 21 program funding round, which, subject to change, will be similar but may vary in significant ways. And we're ready for the next question.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Jeannie. Jeannie, your line is now open.
Yes, thank you for taking my question. My question has to do with an organization that has a current TA award and whether they can apply for a second TA award at this time.
Thanks for your question. It would depend on a few factors, and Andrew, I'm going to let you take this one, including talking about what funding round they received their previous TA award and where they're at in that certification process. But Andrew, could you provide a little more detail, please?
Yeah, great question, and thanks again, Elizabeth. And again, just to offer a suggestion here, the purpose of this call is again around the management of the systems that are going to be required to have, get folks off on a good starting foot. This is sort of getting into like the NOFA level question, again, subject to change. But historically, past TA recipients are eligible to receive more than a single TA award, depending on where they're at in their period of performance, right? So if they had a performance goal and measure that required them to be certified by a date certain that's expressed in their assistance agreement. So we want to not offer sort of universal answers to this question, but basically that the organization is compliant with its existing award. There's nothing that's going to preclude them from being an uncertified CDFI from receiving a second additional award, right? And there is a limit on the number of awards that a group, by nature of a 3-year performance period, there's a limit on the number of awards that a technical assistance recipient can receive before they have to become certified based on the number of years that have gone past since their award. So, for example, let's just go back for the purpose of making the point. If you were a 2017 recipient as an uncertified CDFI, you're at the point in your performance period where you will have had to have submitted a certification application in year 2 and then to be certified in year 3. So if you have not met those performance milestones, you would not be eligible to receive a third award because you've not, met the requirements of the initial awards. So there's a lot of variance in here, but needless to say, if you got a TA award in 2020 or 2021 and you're making steady progress against your PG&Ms, there's nothing that's precluding you from receiving a 22 award at this point, but you'd want to check in and make sure that you're in compliance with your existing assistance agreements before you put in the time and effort to apply in the current round. Was that helpful in answering the question? If there's specific follow-up on a particular award, we'd be happy to look into it via a service request.
Yes, that is very helpful. Thank you so much.
Great.
Our next question comes from Frank Todd. Your line is now open.
Hey, how are y'all doing today? Thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it. Good. Thank you so much, and thank you all again for doing this. I'm actually looking to become a certified CDFI. I'm a bank owner, and I have one branch in the western part of my state and 2 branches in the eastern part of my state. Now, in reading all the material, I see that their contingency is used a lot in terms of investment areas and et cetera. Would it be okay for the CDFI, even if my headquarters was in my eastern part of the state? Could I deem my western stateside branch a CDFI on its own, or would it have to be the entire company?
We'll not be able to answer that question on our side. That is definitely more of a certification question because it goes to the nub of, what is going to be a certifiable, financial institution. And so I would suggest that we follow up or have you follow up with certification. It goes to sort of like this structuring question. Again, our team will make technical assistance awards based on the review of the requirements in the application. The technical assistance recipient will be the entity that will be required to become a certified CDFI. And if there's something inherently problematic about the ability to get certified and you have received a technical assistance award, you will be out of compliance with that award. And, that's not a great thing, right? You basically will need to return the award, right? And so we want to make sure you get off on a good foot. We'll be unable to answer that question today on our side. But again, I would guide people towards the monthly certification conference calls. Again, the next one, as Elizabeth has highlighted on the screen, will be on January 20th. And I think your question, too, will require some additional follow-up with our certification staff on, what they would recommend as the structure that's going to be, eligible to receive certification.
As a reminder, if you'd like to ask a question over the phone, please dial *1. Our next question comes from Kim Kellogg. Your line is now open.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to ask additional questions. Again, emerging CDFI. In the criteria to become a CDFI, it does mention, we provide the financial services as well as development services. An example that I saw cited was homeownership counseling. If we don't do that, can you give us some other examples of development services? We do other kinds of training, but we do not do the homeownership counseling. We're required to do HUD homeownership counseling, and we don't do that. So that's my first question. And the second is if you could describe some uses for how the technical assistance funds could be used or limitations of it. Thank you.
Hi, this is Matthew. I can take a shot at answering some of your questions. So the development services is something that, when the NOFA is released, you'll find the definition of development services in the NOFA. And you can also seek additional information from the certification unit at the CDFI Fund with any particular questions. But if you went on our website and you opened last year's NOFA, you would see that development services, sort of broadly defined, is FA for activities undertaken by you, an affiliate, or a contractor that both promote community development and prepare or assist current or potential borrowers or investees to use your CDFI's financial products or services. And so as you pointed out, homeownership counseling, business planning, financial and credit counseling, those are the types of things that generally qualify as development services. That's not necessarily an exhaustive or complete list.
Okay.
Is that
great? Thank you. Yeah, that helps a lot. I'll go in there and look at that further. Thank you.
Okay. And then allowable uses of technical assistance. I can point. Elizabeth, do you have a good handle on?
Sure. I think the answer for that is similar to for FA. You know, that'll be a NOFA specific question that will be detailed when the NOFA comes out, of what specifically TA can be spent on. But in general, it is for uncertified groups to help them undertake activities to become certified, or for smaller certified groups, it's for activities that would help them build their capacity as a CDFI. So financial assistance historically has been sort of the more lending capital, and technical assistance historically has been the more capacity building activities.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would just share, a couple insights on the uses of technical assistance historically. A lot of folks who might be new to establishing a CDFI and they need to become certified, there are a lot of, costs that are associated with starting that, going through the process, paying contractors, paying staff. But the primary result, that we're seeking in giving out technical assistance awards for groups that are not yet certified, the primary purpose there is to become certified. And so most organizations that are nascent, small and emerging CDFIs who aren't certified are going to be using our technical assistance grant, and will write their applications, towards becoming a certified CDFI. And then conversely, as Elizabeth pointed out, if you are certified and you're writing a technical assistance grant to increase your organizational capacity to serve your target market, eligible market, most of those organizations also were covering administrative costs. And you'll see in the NOFA when it gets published, and if you look back at the 21 version, there's a clear distinction between the uses of financial assistance, which is really like the capital, it's the financing capital, and the technical assistance is operational capacity building capital, and that's the clearest distinction. But yeah, the primary purpose for TA for uncertified, the groups are going to be using the capital to basically become certified and all the associated expenses.
Thank you.
We have no additional questions in queue.
Great. Well, thanks, everyone. Let's give it a couple more minutes. If you have any last-minute questions, you can go ahead and ask those. But this was a great discussion. Really appreciate everyone hopping on today and joining to learn a little bit more about what can be done now to put you in a good shape for applying for the FY22 round. Danielle, have any further questions come in?
We have no further questions.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We're going to conclude today's call. We appreciate your participation and your interest in the CDFI program. If you have additional follow-up questions, you may contact us using the Amos service request feature as the fastest way to get your question answered. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day.
That concludes today's conference. Thank you all for participating. You may disconnect at this time.